This is Political Junkies with Brian Howie and London Thomas.
Hi again, everyone. Welcome back to Political Junkies, the podcast for those hooked on politics. Joining me to my right today, she's moved over to my right. She's the Las Vegas nightlife queen. She's the voice of reason, which is I always feel calmer when she's around. Kalika Moquin, how are you?
Good, Brian. Good to see you again.
And coming in remotely today on the Political Junkies satellite network, he is a world-traveling DJ. I don't know if he's doing that right now. Proud conservative, even when he's wrong. He's usually right. London Thomas, how are you?
I'm great, guys. Peace.
You're in Atlanta?
Good to be back.
Are you in Atlanta? How are things in Atlanta now? Are they mostly open, partially open, sort of open?
All open. All open.
All open. Bars?
All open. Yeah.
Nightclubs?
Yeah, I work in nightclubs. That's how I make my living.
I get that. I'm aware of that. But you seem to be working. So I can go grind on somebody on a dance floor?
Let me tell you how crazy it is. I'm working now more than I was working before COVID.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, people are ready.
So it's crazy.
So if I go to a nightclub, do I have to wear a mask in a nightclub in Atlanta? What's the rules?
No, it's your choice.
Oh, your choice. The free state of Georgia.
Radar?
Wow.
How is Atlanta flying under the radar so much? I feel like no one's talking about it.
Why do you think no one's talking about it?
Well, I mean, Florida. Every move Florida makes, the world jumps. But we early on we heard a ton about Georgia because they went first, and we haven't really heard what the state of Georgia is. But you're saying it's all open. Yeah,
it's all open. And not only that, our cases are come down, hospitalizations are down, death rate started declining back in the summertime. So that's why they're not talking about it, because the model that we use can actually be used across the country, but the media don't want to talk about Georgia now.
Well, you bring up the media. I wanted to talk about the media today because we always reference it, we always blame it, we always talk about where we get our news from. So I'm curious, because a lot of us like to say we get our news from a variety of sources and then we tend to make our judgment. But we're still picking the variety of sources, so it's not quite as pure as you might think. London, when you wake up in the morning, when and how do you get your news and information? Is there a same process every day?
Pretty much. It's crazy. I've had to kind of pull back a little bit because I've been bombarded. Like, it's 24 hours a day. There was a time I talked about these types of things with John O all the time, but that was before everybody else talked about it all the time. Now it's like I've got to just give my brain a chance to decompress. So I go to Breitbart still. I still get information from various sources. Like, if I want to just cut out the middleman, which is the mainstream media, there are places that I go to actually get information. So yeah, every day it's the same thing.
Is there something, because you know that Breitbart is on one side of the spectrum. Do you counter that with something else, or then you're just getting two unbalanced things and there's not because I used to go to Drudge a lot because it was a good aggregator.
Yeah.
Drudge
I remember that.
Went from very pro-Trump. I think he secretly sold it. It is now very, very anti-Trump. I still like that there's an aggregator of important stories. I think it's probably more honest than ever. You can dabble in Breitbart because you can get stories there that you're not going to get anywhere else. Doesn't mean they're not good. Yeah, it doesn't mean they're not good stories. Kalika, where do you get your news and information?
I get it from a lot of various sources, but when I wake up in the morning and first thing I do, I'm guilty of, I go to Facebook, and I also have a lot of friends that live in many different states, and I get a lot of my information honestly just from talking to people. Like, hey, how are things in Atlanta? Or I call my friends in New York, how are things in New York? How are things in LA? And they give me like a firsthand account of what's really going on in that city. Or if there's a big news story like what's going on in Seattle when everyone was camping out, like I could call my friends up in Seattle and say what's really going on. And then just also taking into account a lot of the raw footage from cell phones, clips that are shared on social media.
Yeah.
And then making my own, form my own opinion around what I've seen with my own two eyes and heard with my own ears.
Yeah, I mean, there's more ways to get information than ever before and quicker, and then you have to decide where am I getting the information from? How do you get your local
Exactly.
Vegas? Vegas, how do you get your local Vegas information? Like, somebody was shot the other night, like right outside Planet Hollywood. I was there.
Oh, you were there
10 minutes before.
Wow.
And Vegas is very good at pretending something did not happen. I mean, the big shooting, same thing. You wouldn't know it happened if you didn't know. Vegas is very good about sweeping up the casings, wiping up the blood, and moving on. How much of your, like, I need to know what's going on in my backyard, and then I'll worry about what's going on in Portland?
I would look at, like, Fox 5 News. I don't have cable, so I don't watch news at all.
Yeah,
so
but you can get it on.
I'll get it online.
Apple
News. Yeah, or if like there's a story that I feel is just like really outrageous that I see come in CNN, then I'll like immediately look and see what Fox says about it too, and like compare the two different views. Like when they said that the president pulled out of the debates, it was like CNN was like, okay, Trump's the one who pulled out of the debates, and then you look at Fox News and it's like, no, Biden pulled out of the debates.
I know. You can get completely different headlines, or sometimes it's CNN's covering this, MSNBC's covering this, and then Fox is covering something else altogether. I usually start my day with Twitter, because I think if something important happens, I will know it in the first 30 seconds of my feed. Twitter's for people you don't know, and Facebook is for people you know. I sort of look at it that way. It's for communicating with people or getting information from people you know. You know mostly Facebook. Twitter is a way to communicate or get information from people you don't know. That being said, my own feed of who I'm getting information from is fairly curated. There's a lot of New York Giants streams in there. There's a lot of Mets stuff, but there's a dabbling of people that I might not agree with, but they will give me different perspectives. So I spend a lot of time on that before I move into anything else. And I'm somebody who I wouldn't start my day without reading like 3 newspapers. Trump still does that. Trump still gets the newspapers on the hard papers. And until 4 years ago, I remember I wouldn't move to Los Angeles until you were able to get the New York Post same day out there, which wasn't always the case. And I had to read the newspaper. I want to go. That seems nuts now, doesn't it?
Yeah, just before it was bias.
Before it's like I'm going to read a hard newspaper. You know, I feel bad for the papers, but even as a reporter now, you have got to get it out on Twitter. You got to get the link out on Twitter. By the time you would actually get a newspaper, now the news cycle's going.
Yeah, well, that's how people used to get their news, and people would be consumed with reading newspapers. I've seen clips of even like the 1920s or 30s of people on a subway or on a bench, and they're all with their newspapers, and now everyone's got their phone in front of their face. But we've always had a innate thing inside of us, like we're just like addicted to like knowing what's going on.
Well, back in the day, they had the extra, like the new version of the newspaper would come out at 5 o'clock and the 6. But there were times when we would read about, you know, the main story about a sporting event or a news event. Like we would wait for Sports Illustrated or Time Magazine to come out like 5 days later to do it. That seems nuts now. The flip side, and the problem with that is you're getting this sort of immediacy of news, but then the cycle flips over and it's already a new batch of stuff comes 24 hours later, you know?
You're right.
Thank God for social media, because like you said, Brian, I mean, I remember the days where you had to, even in entertainment, you wouldn't find something out that was going on with your favorite artist for who knows how long. You know, you have to wait for Rolling Stone magazine to come out with an article on Prince or somebody, and it's like that stuff already had happened 3 or 4 weeks prior, or maybe even a month before that. But now it's like you can get information so quickly, and like you said, the cycle changes so fast. It makes it so that you can curate things, I think, a lot better, because you don't have to just rely on New York Times or Washington Post. You can kind of get things, like you said, Brian, from multiple sources, even if they conflict with each other, and you can come to your own conclusion. Yeah,
but if you're somebody who's interested in this stuff and has conversations about this stuff, there's almost this news FOMO going on where you're like, if I don't pay attention for 48 hours, how far behind am I going to get? And that's probably not the worst thing to happen. You know, there was that week a couple weeks ago where the debates happened, Trump got COVID, that happened, and then this happened, and then it just turned the page. His tax thing, new story came out, and
then it went away.
And it went away because something else turns the page on it. So he's like, I know how to make that go away. I'll get COVID. Or the debates happen, and then it is just this constant information that you're stuck in this weird place between, choosing here's the news I want and need and what I'm going to listen to, and how do I block out either other perspectives of it or actual other information. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
It's
personally
hard.
don't watch CNN at all.
I think I watch CNN because sometimes I watch it because somebody I think is entertaining. I remember Keith Olbermann back in the day on MSNBC. He was really good, even if you didn't agree with him. You might watch him. He might, his head might explode. Like Don Lemon is doing what he calls, or somebody called, performative news. It's a performative newscast. There's a little bit of theater in it. Like he might cry, but I think I have to at least watch that because a lot of people do get their news from there. So I need to know what everybody else is hearing so I can either counter that or understand why they're thinking a certain way.
Yeah.
You can't just do that, and that's a challenge. Not only are you trying to get the information that you want, you have to figure out, well, what is everybody else getting, and what is the spin on that? That's a hard thing to have.
I mean, the scary part is that we've all kind of answered this question you asked about where we get our news source from, and there's lots of different sources, but there are some people who will just watch CNN all day or just watch Fox News all day.
That's the scary thing. That's the scary thing about it.
Well, different parts of the country that you travel around to, if you're in an airport gate or in a hotel lobby, it tells you a lot based on what the news channel they have on in that. It used to be CNN was on everywhere. Certain places now it's Fox News everywhere. I think if you went into my parents' house, I think every channel is probably locked on Fox News. I don't think they know that another thing exists. Which knowing them, it'd be hard to believe. But whatever. But some people, it's one or the other. There's some people who might go CNN, MSNBC.
Right.
I tend to go where the entertaining hosts are. Like, I get that a lot of people think Tucker Carlson is whatever people think of him. He's gotten to be a much better and more entertaining broadcaster. Yeah. His writing has gotten better. He's understood how to make certain points. Whether you agree with him or not, you could think about that. Chris Matthews, back on when he was on MSNBC, he had a real interesting take. Rush Limbaugh, you could be like, I don't agree with him, but I understand that. Mm-hmm. I never understood Bill O'Reilly because I never thought he was that good and his appeal, but,
Yeah.
Aaron Burnett the other day was practically in tears. On CNN talking about something about Trump. I think you got to hold it together.
Got to take the emotion out of it a little bit.
But the ones that we
it's kind of hard to do when.
Yeah, well, that's another thing.
I'm sorry.
The LA Times is once again hurting, but they're not hurting because the guy who owns the news, who owns the LA Times, is the so-called richest man in LA. Is he Korean? The Korean doctor? He owns a piece of he owns that. Bezos owns the Post, the Washington Post. Rupert Murdoch owns the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. So all of these are owned by really rich men who are not trying to make money off of the newspaper. So you figured, well, if they're not trying to make money off of it, you're probably going to get an even perspective. You're not, because on some level, just because Bezos is not trying to make money off of the Washington Post doesn't mean that he doesn't want that news to affect Amazon in a greater way. Yeah. And so there's agenda in the paper owners that means that we can't trust the ones that we thought we could always trust, like the New York Times. These people use the New York Times.
There's a Mexican billionaire that owns the New York Times. I think he's a
is that who owns the New York Times now? Yeah, the Mexican.
New York Times is a Mexican billionaire. So like you said, they're all wealthy. Bezos,
and they all say we're going to stay out of it and we're going to keep our editors out of it. But then when Bloomberg was running, and he's like, Bloomberg News Media is not going to cover me the same way as the other candidates. Well, then you sort of lost the focus here a little bit. It's there were certain outlets that we were like, I absolutely trust them, and then there were things we read like the New York Post where you're like, that might be true, and I'm going to be entertained by it. It was like a People magazine-ish of it.
Like Esquire magazine.
Like Esquire magazine. You wanted a little bit of the gossip columns, but now, because it's such a clickbait world we're in, and the reporters are under pressure to. Doesn't matter if you get it right, break it fast, put it on Twitter, get the clicks, get the retweets. That we're not 100% sure anymore, but I'm not 100% sure that matters anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like too the reporters, used to be. You could tell if someone was a good reporter by their unbiased opinion on what they're reporting about. And now today you read something and it comes across super condescending, almost like half of these articles that are written. You can immediately tell who the person is in favor of in the story.
Yeah, and if you post something on your social media, like, here's an article I read about this, before anybody reads what you posted, they're going to assess who's the writer. Yes. Then they're going to Google that person's background. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to say who the publication was. And then the story is the third thing they're going to evaluate is true or not, which it never used to be that way. Ever. We never used to. Because it
used to be like about the story. Now it's like you said, I think a lot of these reporters are activists disguised as reporters. So they have an agenda that they've actually written into whatever. So they're not giving you an impartial take. A lot of times I read these articles, that's why it's so hard to do, but I don't know how you do it. They'll bury the most important information 4 paragraphs down. Everything else is just opinion. The beginning, the end, it's like, it's in spin telling you how they don't like this, how this is egregious. But the most important, potent part that you're really looking for, which is what it's buried at the end or in the middle. And it's like, it's almost inconsequential because it's really just that person's personal opinion. It's an opinionated articles being written all the time.
That's a good point. I used to sort of be able to dismiss it by saying all news was essentially entertainment, which it still is. But what you just said, all news is essentially opinion. That's a much more dangerous thing because I think a lot of people can sort of be like, I understand CNN is entertainment, but a lot of people aren't. There used to be an op-ed page, and it was very clearly labeled. Or a guy would come on the local newscast twice a week, and a chyron would be underneath that said, this is the opinion of this.
Yeah.
Now, you can't... everything is in this gray area of what is news, what is entertainment, what is opinion, and so you're left to go to a bunch of sources, and then, how do you trust those, Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain group of friends that you're like, they at least do the homework and I can trust if they give me a piece of information?
No. Not really.
I feel like
everyone's biased as much as they hate to admit it. Like, okay, I'm a centrist. No, you're kind of biased one way or the other. It's just,
everybody wants to believe they're not biased too.
Yeah.
And you can have, but not everybody is. We're talking about the election coming up a lot. And a lot of people, I think there's no value in voting if you go into the booth and just swipe everybody on the right or swipe everybody on the left or hit all the levers or whatever you do in whatever state you're in, however you vote. I don't think that has any value whatsoever. If you're not going to take it seriously and you're not going to, try and understand what positions the ballot initiatives or the candidates have, I think you're wasting your time, and I think you're hurting it. When I say something like that, people automatically think you're working for Trump, trying to suppress the vote. And
I hear that a lot.
Actually, I'm just trying to get a more honest outcome of the vote.
Yeah.
People think that if you're saying that you don't necessarily agree that everybody should vote unless they which I don't. I think it's your right not to vote, and I don't really care. That opinion is immediately painted with a brush that somehow you are a vote suppressor who must be working for the Trump
everyone's
campaign.
Like, if you're not with me, you're against me. That's the attitude that so many people have right now. Instead of, recognizing that, we live in a democracy and voting, you vote for somebody who aligns best with your values, your own personal values. And
exactly.
So you shouldn't be judging somebody because they're voting for someone else. Like, they have all the reasons in the world. You might not know what they are. But today, everyone wants to point the finger and say, oh, you're the bad guy if you're voting for this dude that I'm not voting for.
Well, you're in Georgia, London, and that has so many complicated political situations going on. There's a somebody running for Congress there who's gonna win, and she's flat out just conspiracy theory way out on the fringes. I forget what her name is. Then you have the one who. Then you have the one who owns the WNBA team, and the whole team hates her. The one who's running for Senate, I think she's running for Senate. Yeah. That there's, most of the cities are run by Democratic mayors. It's traditionally a Republican state. They're there's lines in Georgia of people waiting outside already for 3 hours to vote. How hard is it to vote there? Is it really that hard? Like it's Black Friday?
Really hard. In the city of Atlanta, I'm outside of Atlanta, so I'm in Cobb County. It's a little easier out here. The city of Atlanta, Fulton County, is really hard because for some reason it's been a lot of, like you said, early voting. So I've been hearing 3 to 4 hour lines.
Do you have to vote in your county? Do you have to vote in your own county, or can you hop the MARTA out to Cobb County and vote?
MARTA doesn't come out to Cobb County.
It's the MARTA.
It doesn't? Isn't the Braves ballpark in Cobb County?
Yes.
There's some kind of train you can take out there.
They have it's called the Cobb County Transit. It's not MARTA, though.
Oh, MARTA you can take to Buckhead and
MARTA
switch.
you can go everywhere. MARTA's like the public transit.
But that's still Fulton County?
Yeah, the city of Atlanta is Fulton. We're Cobb.
London, can you mail votes in?
The Brave Stadium.
Yeah, can you mail votes in?
Yeah, but a lot of people, you can mail votes in. You guys have no idea how many times I've been hit up on email, change.org. I mean, all these organizations, like, to mail in vote. Like, I didn't think it was a big deal until it's like the last month. All I get is emails and text messages. You can mail your vote in. You don't have to go in. If you're afraid, you don't have to go in. It's crazy.
So why would somebody wait for 4 hours if they can mail it in? What is the logic there?
I think, to be honest with you, in our state, most people are not afraid of the virus. So in their mind,
I'm afraid of the 4 hour wait. I don't care about the virus. That seems insane.
I think they'll wait, but they're going to wait in the 4 hours because people believe this is a historic election. Like, it's gotten into people's minds.
Right, but you can't historically vote by mail. Like, why not mail it in if you?
It doesn't feel the same, Brian.
Oh, it doesn't feel the same.
It doesn't feel the same. People want to be actively involved. So they'll wait in line just like a person will wait in a line at an amusement park. They might wait in that line for that new roller. For them, this election is a big deal. So mailing it in kind of makes them feel not a part of it. Being there physically and doing it makes them feel like they're being a part of history. So that's kind of mindset.
All right, well, if
it's crazy as it might sound, right, that's it.
That's fine. And if that's the reason you're doing it, then I don't give a shit that you have to wait for 4 hours in line. Because that's exactly your personal choice. I shouldn't have to make more polling places because you have this feeling that your mail-in ballot is not as historic. You know? Too fucking bad. Either get an Uber, go up to Cobb County, or you can do whatever you want to that. It's like the people who want to wait outside the Apple store to be first in line when they could come back in a week to get or the new Air Jordans, or Black Friday, I want to get my $200 TV. I shouldn't have to open more Walmarts because nutty people want to be there at midnight on Black Friday. Like, that's the problem. That isn't voter suppression. That is people having some personal motivation to do that. We shouldn't have to set up 1,000 polling places for that, you know?
Exactly.
Especially with early voting, because you can go back in 3 days.
It's good, though, to see so many people voting.
That's what I'm
participating.
That's what's good about it.
Yeah.
She's right. It's good to see people in, like, if you guys came to Georgia, it would blow your mind because it's like I said, America in 2020, back in February or January, you wouldn't even know there's a virus. Like, you wouldn't know there's a virus. Nothing's really changed. You see some people with masks on, but everything's open. Like, I have friends in London. I have DJ friends. They're literally not working. Restaurants, you can't serve inside. We can have full capacity inside of our restaurants. So, like, voting, people are like, hell yeah, let's do this.
Have you ever in your life gone to a polling place and the line was too long and you're just like, fuck it?
No.
Have you ever done that? No, you always voted.
No. Yeah.
Good for you.
I've never had to worry about waiting and going crazy because I don't think it's ever been an election like the one we're having right now. That's just my opinion. I think I've heard, stories of what it was like back in the day, but I think people are really inspired right now to get out and vote. In Atlanta, we have a lot of politicians pushing people. Stacey Abrams has a commercial. Barack Obama has a local commercial for some of these people, and so people are inspired to get out and vote.
Yeah,
But
I'm not voting for who they're voting for.
Right. Well,
I'm not voting for who they vote for. But
is Trump going to win Georgia? What's that? We lost him. Could we hear that? Is Trump going to win
Brian,
Georgia?
I lost you.
Is Trump going to win Georgia?
Good question, Brian. He won last time.
I know. It's a
really
different ball game. But you didn't see these lines last time. They weren't lining up for Hillary.
Well, here's a crazy thing that I noticed too. I've noticed a lot of people, because I work out a lot of people in my gym who may never have voted for Brian Kemp. They would have never thought about voting for him. They've changed their mind about him because when he opened the gyms up, other states don't have gyms open, or you have to wear masks. There are all these restrictions. When he opened the gyms back in April, a lot of people that I know who are liberal, because all my friends are, they had a different take on Brian Kemp, and they start being keen in on some of the things that he was talking about. And I think Trump might get it. He might get it because Brian Kemp's getting a lot of support, even though they tried to make it seem like, he was careless opening up too soon. People having the ability to work out, go out, be normal. It's working in Brian Kemp's favor.
So people directly associate that with Kemp, but they don't associate that with Trump.
Well,
is that right?
What I'm saying is by association, they might associate that.
They're going to vote
Trump, is what I'm
Republican
saying.
now.
That's my point. Yeah,
Yeah.
Republican. Republicans are making headway in the black community here. Like, it's really crazy. Like, they had a local rally, and you would be surprised how many black people were there. Trump came out of nowhere and had like this empowerment conference for black people, and there were like lines of cars out there. And I think the building he did it in out here in Cobb County might have had for black people, which was a lot of people, maybe 300 or 400 people showed up. It's not thousands, but even that in Atlanta is a miracle. So I'm just saying,
it is probably more socially acceptable for a black person to go into downtown Atlanta and announce that they are voting for Trump than a white person to go into downtown Los Angeles and say they are voting for Trump. Right?
I don't know about that. I mean, we have a strong hip hop community here,
but a lot of them like Trump.
Pro-Democrat. No, the hip hop community did not like Trump. They're very pro. Whatever Beyonce says, whatever Oprah says, whatever the mainstream says, typically the black entertainment class sides with John Legend.
You need to be that voice, London. You need to be the voice for
How
Trump.
political is Tyler Perry in Atlanta, if at all?
He's very quiet.
Very quiet.
No, very quiet.
He
came out, remember, a couple of months ago and had that comment about the police. Remember, he said that he thinks we need more police, like where his studio is. He thinks that, but since that time, nothing. Like I said, he's friends with Stacey Abrams, so that's why there's these allegiances. You know how it's like Hollywood. It's like you have these allegiances socially, even if you might not think, you agree. You might not come out in the open and say that. Like Tyler Perry might vote for Trump because politically or economically it might be in his favor, but he won't come out and say that out loud. He's not bold enough. He's not Kanye.
Nevada's a weird situation because it's gone either way a few times. It's an important state, but as we record this, Biden was here yesterday. Ivanka was here 2 days ago. Nobody knows.
I did see my friend attended the Ivanka one because it's like a Hispanics for Trump. She helped, she helped to organize it. Yeah, and I watched it. I thought it was great.
I watched it too.
At her IG Live. Yeah, and then Biden said some stupid shit when he was here, right? Like he's like, I'm Joe Biden. I'm running for Senate. Didn't he say that?
Yeah, he said Senate.
I don't know. Is Vegas affected? Vegas is sort of run on things like gambling laws, and it's run on tourism taxes, and it's run on a lot of other things. What are the things that really influence Vegas's business? Is it because even the mayor is not a real mayor of Vegas? I mean, is it a city council? Like who runs Vegas? Who runs the Strip? So the Strip, from my understanding, is its own jurisdiction. It's not the mayor. Right, it's not the mayor. Yeah, it's not the mayor. Mayor Goodman's at all the ribbon cuttings, the old guy and the wife, but it's not even his turf. I think overall, downtown Las Vegas is the city of Las Vegas is not the Strip. I mean, Sisolak's getting a lot of heat for everything that's going on. I don't know if he's directly responsible for
closing the strip.
And he's the governor?
He's our governor. But he, for one, the unemployment's a mess. There are thousands and thousands of people who have been waiting on unemployment since March and are just backlogged. You cannot get through to anyone on the phone lines for the life of you. That's issue one. He doesn't address it. Then we have nothing that attracts people with money here. The clubs aren't open. Entertainment's not open. You can't go to a game. So what's the reason that somebody is going to come to Vegas to spend money? They're not. And then you put that with inexpensive flights and cheap rooms, and we're just getting like
you're not
life,
getting the
for lack of better terms.
I don't.
Oh my! You are.
That doesn't seem worth it.
I've seen it.
To be open.
Yeah.
And selling $20 rooms and drinks and nothing else. If you're Caesars.
Yeah. It really doesn't.
It doesn't seem it because the people who come here, they're normal clients they're going to be like, this is not for me. I am not going to be a part of it.
They're going to Mexico.
9 of the 13, casinos on the strip that have been open have had a shooting in the last 3 weeks. You know, it's a rough scenario. But I think they got to put their workers back to work. But that's also union run. Is the union saying we need to open everything and get all these people back to work?
Vegas needs to open up. And I think that, this last election, we were a blue state. And I think there's a lot of people, like myself included, just seeing how bad, in my opinion, Sisolak has fucked this place up, that we're voting Republican simply for that reason.
Harry Reid was the god here
job.
For a long, long time, right? He was the all-powerful senator in Nevada for a long, long time and in the country. How long has Sisolak been the governor?
I think only a year or 2 years. He's pretty new.
It's tough for any of these new politicians, though, because if you just walked into the job and you have to deal with something like this, it is a challenge. I get that.
But if you've heard him talk, he's an idiot.
Yeah, I don't know what is there a timetable to open Las Vegas or they're just like there will not be any shows till 2021? Are there any concerts that are on sale?
No, it's in the final phase. What is it? Maybe phase 4, phase 5. I'm not sure exactly how many phases he has, but it's in the last phase. Concerts, brothels, nightclubs. I think now you can open things on limited capacity. But yeah, it's like the clubs can open now for table service only if they want to have a DJ playing and just bottle service, but no general admission. It's just all these regulations are just it's messing everything up. I don't know our case numbers, but London, it sounds like Atlanta is doing well with being open. I don't know why we can't follow that.
The way you can
you
judge,
guys can do it.
The way you can judge the case numbers, you can't judge the case numbers on the people who came to Vegas and stayed for 3 days and left and might have gotten sick a while ago. I think the way you can judge how the opening went is how many of the hotel workers and blackjack dealers have gotten sick, and there doesn't seem to be any story about that or any record of that.
No, we heard of when COVID first came back in March. You did hear of the Mirage, a couple of employees got sick.
But since they reopened, it seems to be safe. It's like around the country, some football. There's no record of any football game leading to any spread or anything like that. Is there a push, or is everybody just drawn a line through 2020 and been like, nothing's happening this year, or nothing's happening till the election,
I don't think
or what is
anything's happening this year? And I'm hearing that nightclubs now are not going to be opening. They already have a date for March 2021, when they want to fully open. I know some shows have been canceled through next summer. So we just heard Broadway's not even opening until June or something.
Yeah, so, Broadway's not, but New York. But that's different because that's so many foreign tourists that are just not booking flights to America right now because they've heard so they couldn't even open
Vegas
for that.
Too, though.
A lot of Asian tourists are not coming. That's a big part of it too.
Yeah, and conventions.
There's no conventions. If they had a concert, are there concerts going on in Atlanta? Can a country music star have no concerts?
No concerts. No concerts. No.
If they had
as a matter of fact, the first concert won't be until I think spring of next year, a concert. Not till we were driving by one of the venues and my girlfriend saw. I think it's an old school concert. It's not till next. I think March or spring of next year.
Okay, that makes no sense. I went to the pumpkin patch with my kids this week.
Yeah.
And I posted something on my story, and there was we were in line to get tickets to go on the rides, and there was probably 200 people in line in front of us. And it was like this through the whole thing. You couldn't even walk. So I don't get how you can have little pumpkin patch carnivals and it's perfectly safe, but we can't have an outdoor concert with social distancing or wearing masks. Like, it just, nothing makes sense anymore.
I know that you can't have, that's true.
None of
The Lakers won the title in Los Angeles, and it was perfectly fine to go outside and celebrate. Are schools open here?
No.
Is there a push to open them?
If there is, they're not telling us.
Right, but you're in the mommy circles.
Yeah.
Are most people like, we shouldn't open, or is there a battle going on there?
I think people are conflicted with it. So I think if you're a stay-at-home mom and it's not an inconvenience to have your kids there, it's just, and you want to keep everyone safe and you're not really fighting it. But, they gave zero solutions for working parents and for stay-at-home or single parents when they're like, you just have to stay at home now and oversee your kids' distance learning all day. And there's parents like myself and many other working parents and single parents who, yes, we have a big problem with it.
Well, that gets back to the where do you get your news from on that. So that's probably your kids' moms and other friends of yours that is probably 3 steps removed from the school board or whoever's really make that decision, or is that the county, or is that the state, or who has to sign off on a school district at this point? Do you know?
I have no idea. I'm a part of a lot of mom groups online, so I get my news and feedback from them. Everyone's talking about it all the time. And
if somebody says, I would like my kids to go back to school, do they get buried from?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that opinion's no good either.
Yeah.
So
everyone's opinion's wrong.
you have to think about that. CNN is in Atlanta, but they are moving out of that building. Are you aware of that?
I'm not. I didn't hear that.
Why? They're getting out of there. There's a campus that is like 10 miles that I think is in Cobb County, but they're getting out of that famous CNN.
No.
They did not like when all this shit went down there that the building got attacked. That got spray painted in the glasses.
They're moving it. Yeah.
They're moving it somewhere else. So they're selling that building and they're getting out of there. Which as Mayor Bottoms said, like, CNN did a lot to put Atlanta on the map, It was a really big thing for the city. Around the world, it was headquartered in Atlanta. That was a big thing for Atlanta. Atlanta turning on CNN during the riots, is that the first place to go? I don't know if that was an attempt, like, this is the most visible thing we're going to find in Atlanta here and attack it, but CNN's like, screw this, we're out of here.
That's interesting to know. I didn't know. I'm actually, now that you bring this up, I'm going to look it up for myself and get some info on it. But it'd be interesting if they moved to Cobb County, because, see, Cobb County's totally different from the city of Atlanta. I mean, there's a stark difference between being out here and being in the city. So if they were, especially them being as liberal as they are, because Cobb County is very conservative.
That's weird that CNN got attacked.
Yeah, I know, it's very conservative. So you have, and Cobb County borders Fulton County, right?
Yes, it does. Yep.
So you have you have a conservative place and a very liberal place, like, sharing a border. People working, going back and forth to work, everything. Which sort of brings up a point. Like, do you think it's going to die down one way or another after the election, or no matter what goes down, it is going to go nuts?
COVID?
No, the rhetoric.
The rhetoric's not going to die down. No.
No matter what?
I think, no, people are entrenched in these ideologies, and it's only getting worse. I don't think it's going down. No, I don't think so at all.
What happens if Biden wins in a landslide? It's not even close.
If Biden wins in a landslide and it's not even close, what's going to happen?
So then you're taking away the. It would be tough to say that it was rigged if he loses 45 states.
Yeah.
If it's close, it's going to be a giant problem either side, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
going to be a disaster.
It'll be a disaster if it's close. If it's a landslide one way or another,
it's still going to be a disaster. I think it still will be, because you have some ideologies now that are hardcore. Listen, anytime I see someone with a flag on their car, on their property, I don't have to even guess who they're voting for, right? Because it's like a silent protest to have a flag now.
Yes.
On the opposite side, people that I see wearing a mask. And like in our city, you don't have to wear a mask. So most of the people that I see wearing masks, like coming to the gym, I go to the gym sometimes at midnight, no one there. They come in with the mask on. They carry the spray bottle with them everywhere they go. They're doing more wiping down than working out.
They're watching CNN.
That's a good work. That's a good workout. The wipe on, wipe off.
Yeah, you get those triceps going, man.
You do. So what do you think?
I think either way, it's going to be crazy.
But what is the issue that you think is going to be still burning after or the biggest issue after the election that is still, because it's Trump on the big picture. It's really a referendum on Trump, the election. So that gets decided. What is the next issue that we're fighting over after the election?
Coronavirus, because the virus is not going away. Coronavirus is going to be the next big thing, because if he loses, think about this. Biden's already said he's willing to lock the whole country back down again, the whole country. And unlike Trump, who said he'll leave it up to the governors to figure out.
I know.
Biden said he'll have an executive order to shut the whole thing down if he gets the quote unquote science. And we all know.
Yeah, he legally he won't be able to do that. I think he's saying that. I don't believe he actually would do that.
Oh, anyone can support that.
I think most people don't want that. It's a talking point. I don't even think the liberal crowd wants that. I think they want him to say that he would. So you think Trump goes out and then it still is the coronavirus that we're arguing over?
I think it gets even more ramped up because
no,
they still got these fictitious numbers. Like they still have this illusion that, and we all know now. Where are we? November? No, wait. Where are we? October? What is it? What's the date?
Something. Middle of October.
October 13th.
13.
Right. So if you're listening to this in 2022 and you're like, what the fuck were they talking about back then? Google it. It was called the coronavirus.
We already know we know how many people died from it. We know how many people survived. We already know it's no worse than the flu. We know this all. But you still have governors in these crazy states that are literally scare tactics, shutting indoor dining down again, about to roll back.
But that's my question. I believe that California is staying closed until the election because they've been told if you open it up, it's going to seem better, and that's somehow going to reflect on Trump.
Yeah.
And if you keep it closed down, we will take care of you on the back end. Biden's like, we will write the check, we will bail California out of debt. But if you open it, it's going to seem over, which is going to help Trump. I believe that's the case. So once the election happens, I don't think this impetus for these states that are like Washington State, Oregon, and these places that are really, really conservative out on the fringes to keep their foot on the corona gas. I'm not sure about that. What do you think about it, Kalika? What do you think the issue is going to be after the election, assuming Trump loses? Let's just say he loses by a lot. Trump loses by a lot. What do you think happens? What do you think the noise will be about?
It scares me if he loses. I guess what's going to happen during those couple months before he's out of office.
Oh, that's a good point. Like, that he still has 10 weeks to do whatever as a lame duck.
He's still there. Like, what happens?
He is still there.
And when is the last time that's even happened in the United States? Do we have?
Bush.
Okay, that's what I thought. Like,
Bush the first, Bush Senior, George Herbert Walker. He was out, and then he had some. You mean somebody who got voted out, not somebody who's just running on. It goes back to 92.
Okay, but and I think to your point, I mean, I feel like right now all the left really has against Trump is the coronavirus. So I think that's, to your point of California staying closed and a lot of these Democrat states, if everything's on the up and up and we don't have cases and everything's open, like what is their main issue?
Well, that's what I'm wondering what happens then. So let's say get to the inauguration. What is the... because I've heard Biden say, the first thing I'm going to dive into is this. They never actually do any of those things.
Yeah.
So where are we in America in first quarter of 2021? Because I've said to a lot of my friends on the right, I think they're going to enjoy being the opposing party. I think that's fun. I think that's more enjoyable to be the rebel against the establishment than you are. Fighting against Trump was a full-time job for the left and liberals.
So what do they have to fight for if Biden wins?
Right. If you flip it the other way, will the Republicans can still be so riled up, or will they just be like, we'll let it go and we'll ramp it up in 2 years?
Better. They're not a store of losers, I guess.
I don't know. Remember the Tea Party riled up back in '94 and that fringe sort of. The opposition is always the louder one.
Yeah. I think that if Trump wins, you're going to have riots for days, for weeks. I think if Biden wins, you're going to have a lot of people that are mad, but they're still going to go to work.
Right. I think you're right. I think it will be calmer if Biden wins. Are you still there, London?
Yep, I'm still here.
You don't think it'll be any calmer if Biden wins?
No, not at all. I think it's going to be. But guys, I have friends in the conservative movement, not just in Atlanta, in DC. I have a friend of mine that she dates one of these guys that's one of these, what do they call themselves? They're, oh God, I forgot the name. But they're in that part of that DC clique. And I'm telling you right now, if Biden wins, it's not going to be any better than if Trump wins, because the people who support Trump or go in that direction, a vast majority of them are never going to look at Biden and take him serious or look at him as the president.
Right.
Yeah, I'm being honest with you. And it's worse than the way because George Bush was looked at as a bumbling idiot and he was
not
made
legitimate.
fun of. No one thought about him being legit. But that was a different time. We moved on so far from there. There's so many. It's so splintered.
So the way it was for Obama, which was a lot of people didn't like him, which I don't understand. And it still wasn't as loud about it all the time.
No, not at all.
It wasn't front page. You don't think it'll go to that place? You think we've gone too far?
Way too far. Way too far. Social justice now, where they put, because you got to understand, Brian, everywhere you look, everything you do. I can't watch a basketball game. I can't watch a fashion show. I can't do anything now without someone white and straight being called a racist or this or that for no reason whatsoever. And it's in a part of our fabric. So you have a pushback.
So we've stretched out the sweater and we won't get it back. Is that right?
I don't see how it's coming. I remember I told you I think there's going to be a revolution. Yeah. I still hold me to that. I think we're still going in that direction. Not a revolution, a civil war. That's what
All right. I don't think anybody's taking
that word.
I don't think anybody's taking your guns away. What do you think? If Biden wins, a little calmer, or it'll just be the same?
I think if Biden wins, people are going to not have something to be mad about anymore. Like,
I do too. I think there's some upside in that. I think it'll at least be. I'm not sure it'll be better, but it will be quieter.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
All right. Final thought, London. About anything?
Final thought. I can't wait to see what happens during this election. That's all I'm thinking about. Right. All I'm thinking about is November 4th.
Yeah, I know.
Where are we? Like, we're talking about this right now. We're speculating. No one knows. But I'm a little fearful either way, you guys. I'm not as optimistic if Biden wins at all. Because I know some of these patriots. So I'm not as optimistic about people just going back to their daily lives like Obama or... I think we've reached a point now where whoever wins,
we're too ramped up.
Crazy.
We're too political now. Cleek, final thought?
Oh, I just agree with London. Or I'm on edge about the election, and as it gets closer, and this is 2020. As people make jokes about it, it's like you couldn't write this. Like you could not be a script writer.
I know.
It's like right when you think it's like. It's as crazy as it's going to get. Like the entire cabinet gets coronavirus. The president gets coronavirus. It's like, okay, we're going to write that in, right? 3 weeks before the election. 3 weeks before the election. We're all like in the fucking Truman Show.
It's nuts.
You can't make this stuff up.
No.
You can't. Bring it back to what I said at the beginning. I think people need to consider which news sources they look at. And if you just try and artificially been like, I'm going to try this side, but you're not really buying into it, have more of an open mind both on where you get your news and how you get your news. And one way or another, I just hope that whichever side wins on the election, that it is so clear on election night that, Because if it is
Right, but it's not gonna be.
I know.
It's not gonna be.
I
With
don't
the
believe
mail-in
it
ballots,
is.
this could be going on until
We're selling
January.
hope here at Political Junkies. We can believe. Thank you, everybody. Like, share, subscribe. Please review Political Junkies. Put the word out, and we will see you next time.